Thank you for viewing this RFID Community Connect video from AIM. AIM is an industry association for automatic identification technologies. It's not only RFID, but barcoding, IoT, or any other technologies that automatically identify and capture data. If you want to learn more about AIM, go to aimglobal.org or reach out to us to set up a one-on-one call where we can tell you a little bit more about how AIM can benefit your business.
Hey everyone, I'm going to get started with just some notes before Brian speaks. So welcome to RFID Community Connect Day 2. I'm Mike Allen. I'm the Business Development Director at AIM, and we are very excited to have you here for our second day of RFID related sessions. There's going to be a lot of conversation around successful implementations of different types of RFID. And there's also going to be a lot of conversation around just some of the standards and security features of RFID. So we're really excited about today's sessions. And first thing I wanted to do was thank our sponsors who have made this event possible. HANA, Metalcraft, Zebra, Aware Innovations, TSC, the University of Memphis, Avery Dennison, Sonaria, Alton Tag, AsReader, Vista IT Systems, Blue Star, Arcadian, Pragmatic, and Quartz. You can learn more about their RFID solutions in our pre-event media guide, which was sent out to all attendees. If you do not have that, there will be a link in the chat to download. We'll also include additional information for these great sponsors in our post-event materials, so be on the lookout for that. And just some housekeeping notes, since we do have a very tight agenda, we will be leaving time only for a few questions per session. We do welcome as many questions as possible though, so please send those via the Q&A button located at the bottom of your application screen. Questions that are not initially answered today will be answered as part of our post-event materials. Also, recordings from many of our presentations will be available as part of our post-event materials as well. I want to now real briefly tell you AIM's antitrust policy. It's a policy of AIM to conduct its operations in strict compliance with the antitrust laws. No AIM activity shall create even the appearance of a violation of the letter or spirit of those antitrust laws. And for those unfamiliar with AIM, AIM is the industry association for all automatic identification and data capture technologies. Today's sessions really highlight what AIM is about, building a community that solves the challenges many face with automated data capture solutions. We do this through networking, advocacy for proper adoption of the technologies, and then creating a vibrant problem-solving community with our industry groups, as well as helping update and create standards for adoption and interoperability. Reach out to us if you'd like to learn more about AIM's current initiatives. So here's the agenda for the next 2 hours. And as you can see, we have Brian Marflak from FedEx leading things off. Brian is the Vice President of FedEx, and we are pleased to have him speak on their journey with RFID. Brian, thank you for joining us, and take it away.
All right. Thank you, and appreciate being able to speak to you today. You can move. Let me just give you a little overview. Brian Marflak, Vice President of Operations Support and Engineering with FedEx. Been with the company almost 28 years, a lot in the ops technology space and support engineering functions. I'm currently the officer in charge of our RFID journey that we've been on for about 2 years. It's been exciting, and we've learned a lot and really in motion to scale it throughout our networks. If you go to the next slide. So we looked at this holistically across the network, and we're really looking at where can RFID provide value throughout the scanning process from pickup to delivery. And we really keyed on what would help our shippers, the customer experience, and start with the customer in mind first. So that's really where our first use case came into play. And we looked at it and we started looking at, okay, how do we get more RFID tags into our network? And we've been starting to work with select shippers across the industries to embed RFID chips into the shipping labels so that at pickup and throughout our enabled locations, we get that passive read of RFID scans, which really improves our overall customer experience at point of pickup, the first mile, It increases our productivity, reduces the time we spend on the dock, and really provides that visibility that our customers and our recipients expect from us. And it's interesting, over 50 years ago, our founder, Fred Smith, said the information about the package is just as important as the package itself. And it's very evident as we've been rolling this out, that is more true today than ever, where people want to know where their package is, when it's picked up, so that they can have expectations when that package is going to go through the network and get to the last mile point of delivery. So we've been looking at that, but we have an all-up approach of how to get these better visibility tools throughout our network, whether we supply RFID embedded labels. If a shipper already has RFID tags, we are installing equipment so that we can ingest that information, or if it's just a data transfer of their RFID tag information, so that we can ingest that into our downstream systems, utilize it for reading throughout our network. All in all, how do we keep this holistic view and really provide better visibility and streamline our operations by having RFID and tags in addition to our barcodes? Next slide. Like I mentioned, we really started at the first mile and really drove that use case forward, because what we found in our network was, to pick up, scan, and load packages into a van where a driver picks up 100, 150 packages, it's very time consuming. And a lot of this could be at a retail location where the retailers don't want people tied up in the back room. They want them on the floor selling. So we've been able to implement processes and RFID labels and scanning technology where now the packages just passively get read onto the van. We get the information, we pass that information to the shipper, downstream systems, speeds up the loading of vehicles, and really improves that custodial control for a customer experience. We've seen improved overall customer experience quality metrics throughout. So that great benefit there. And then also for the larger shippers that load full trailers, providing that enhanced visibility of when that package gets loaded into that trailer, package the trailer association so we know what's on those trailers, gives us visibility internally to do better planning and execution, gives the customer better visibility, the recipient better visibility through FedEx.com, and it really speeds up the overall process so that we don't have physical scanning, human beings doing that process. So overall, really starting with that shipper in mind, really seeing these gains and expanding that throughout our network. Next slide. And to me, I'm a visual person, so I always like to show, okay, what does that mean? Like, how does that really help a recipient, somebody that's getting this technology? But before, if you look at the top portion of this page, before we had RFID pickups for large trailer accounts, the packages were just loaded into the trailer with no scan because of efficiencies. So you would just see a pickup scan, which is a virtual scan at 12 a.m., but the shipment information isn't sent till 2:56 p.m. And then at 9:18 p.m. is really when that package was at that location. So the recipient and the shipper really wouldn't see any information on FedEx.com that we have possession until 9:18 p.m. Now on the lower portion, these are actual shipments with RFID tags. So now at 1:57, we get the information from the shipper saying, here's the electronic data. At 2:36 is when that RFID loaded package was on that trailer and that trailer starts to leave that location. We associate the pull of the trailer and the RFID tag together. And now we're able to give that visibility hours in advance that we actually have possession of the package. We know with 99.99% certainty that we have it. And we give that earlier visibility. And 3 to 5 hours earlier visibility is key to our recipients. We've heard through voice of customer that they want to know that we have that package. They don't want to just see that we got the shipment information. So it gives that custodial control view that we've been requested to provide. So again, shipper in mind, how do we really provide that visibility? And this is kind of how that works in our systems. Next slide. So again, what's that all mean to us? I talked about it a little bit earlier, improve customer experience in the locations that we have installed this in with the shippers. We've seen significant reduction in calls to both us and the shippers, reductions in customer service cases where somebody calls in, they don't know where their package is. So again, we're driving better visibility, which drives better improvements for our customers, both shippers and recipients. I talked about this reduced dock time. We've been able to show that we are able to be on a shipper's dock 50% less of the time because of the passive read of RFID. We don't have to physically scan every barcode. Gives us that efficiencies that we need. Also helps those shippers that we aren't tying up their workers on the dock, and we get in, get out, and speed up the process. Talked about it, efficiencies. You don't have to wait for us. You can load the packages, get the same visibility, take the trailer. We can go and you get the benefits of both efficiency and visibility. And the accuracy, even when humans scan, you still have a human in the loop. They aren't always perfect scanning. With RFID and the readers that we have, we've shown significantly higher read rates so that we know with very high accuracy that we have your package. It eliminates, discrepancies of what somebody thinks they ships versus what we actually get. Eliminates a lot of the back and forth that we have, but accuracy is key, and that's where RFID really benefits us. Next slide. And just to put this all together, like I mentioned, I wanted to focus on where we started, but now it's about that holistic network. And, we start with getting the labels ingested into our system through shippers, through other sources, like I mentioned, either through already customer provided RFID, or we will be able to read their products inside boxes, get that information, and then we feed downstream and have RFID infrastructure in place at locations where we'll be able to improve our sortation, eliminate manual scanning. Again, a lot of efficiency gains, a lot more read events where we can provide better visibility. That leads us into how do we process, reducing time in some of our inventory systems where if we have a clearance cage, how do we improve that speed to release so that we give that better customer experience all the way through the last mile and delivery confirmation. How do we use that RFID tag to not have to physically scan? We know where the packages are in vans and give that better visibility at the final mile. And then because we have all this increased visibility throughout our network, how do we reduce our overall lost packages? We also are able to remediate packages much quicker. We're able to see packages that may go off the intended route and redirect those. And we've also had significant success with being able to identify product and shipments that have RFID tags on them already. They got separated from the original box with the track ID on. We were able to remediate those in certain circumstances where in the past we wouldn't have been able to do that. But when we're looking at it, we're looking at that entire from pickup to delivery journey and really scaling our network to be able to convert over to RFID chips and infrastructure to improve both efficiency and visibility for our customers. Thank you. I think that was it. Just any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, for the presentation. That was really great. One question that I do have from the audience, and there's still some time to put some more questions in there if more people have any, is now that FedEx is becoming an industry leader in automatic identification, is there potential for for them to leverage RFID for fleet optimization, in particular tires and vehicles?
Yeah, so we are actually in the process of looking into those use cases, but we see a lot of opportunity in the tire space. More and more tire shippers are embedding RFID chips within the tires. So how do we utilize that data to really drive both from a maintenance perspective and also for tires shipped in our network? To make sure that they're one of the hardest to handle packages we have. So how can we improve the efficiency of keeping track of those throughout the system?
Great. Another question we have is, can you comment on reader infrastructure,
Yeah.
i.e., where are the tags being read?
Yeah, so we have multiple locations. First and foremost, for shippers that have large trailer spots that where they load the trailers themselves, we actually put the infrastructure on their dock, on the dock doors. So as the packages go through those readers, we're getting that trailer or package to trailer association. For van pickups, we actually have, RFID enabled sleds for the handheld devices so that they can scan the boxes. In several of our physical sorting locations, we've put RFID infrastructure at unload doors, load doors throughout the facility so that we can have visibility throughout those. So it just depends on the use case and where we put the infrastructure, but it's scaling more and more.
So this person is asking, is the general idea that customers will be able to use RFID labels and pay a lower shipping rate, or continue with barcode and pay a higher rate?
Well, we see it as a win-win for all of us. Pricing's not my game. I leave that up to the pricing experts. But what we're doing right now is, we essentially the customer can either use the RFID labels or the regular labels. With the RFID labels, they get much better visibility, lower calls, lower claims. We get improved efficiency. So right now, we're viewing it as a win-win, and that's our approach at this point.
Great. And just a couple more questions that we
Yeah.
have. How difficult was it for the employee transition to the new process? Can you talk a little bit about how this was rolled out, only in a pilot area or region, how that worked?
Yeah, I mean, implementation and integration to me is always the hardest part, right? So what we did was we started out small, picked a few retailers that we work with at stores, and for the one use case where a van driver goes to the store, picks up the packages, and instead of scanning every barcode, they have a sled with their handheld device where they attach it to, and then they just do the read. It was a lot of training, a lot of reporting afterwards to show them kind of what they were doing and where there were opportunities. But after that, it essentially almost became normal process and normal SOPs. And then from there was just expansion.
And then do you have any idea or thoughts on how long before RFID is deployed across the whole network?
Yeah, I mean it's a journey, right? I mean, just because of it, even though the costs have come down considerably, the infrastructure is a high cost. So we're doing it we think in a very responsible way. Again, we're installing it in use cases where we know there's a value for us and the customer, and we'll scale that out. Like I mentioned, we have the pickup and the first mile visibility. The delivery is we're working on that now, and then we're going to fill in the gaps throughout the entire network. But it's not tomorrow, but it's not going to be 10 years from now. So We're scaling it as needed and where we see the biggest benefit for both us and our customers.
And then we had a question about if FedEx plans to use RFID in the stores for packages consumers might be bringing there.
Yeah, yes, we do plan to do that. We're working with our FedEx office partners to start basically working through the process to get that implemented.
And then do you know the volume of tags nowadays that you use?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like giving exact numbers, but we've seen exponential growth from, like I said, we've been on this journey for 2 years. We have high demand from shippers who have requested this product, especially on the first mile portion. And it's just a scaling. Now it's just about scaling to meet the need.
All right, and then this will be the last question. I know that there's other questions here. We will, in the post-event materials, get to your questions. So we do appreciate everyone's participation right now. This last question is, do you have a measure of RFID labels that are damaged during the shipment? And if so, is there a backup system that you
Yeah.
have?
So just so everybody knows, the RFID chip is embedded in in our normal barcode label. So if you look at a label, if you look at a shipment with a regular label and one with an RFID label, you really can't tell the difference unless you hold it up in the light and you can see the chip. So yes, we have a barcode backup. That's where, we have been for many, many years, and that is our main scanning technology. However, the original question is how many damages? We see very few. I mean, it's fractions of a percent. So we that has not been an issue for us, but we do have a backup with the barcode.
Great. So that will wrap things up here for our keynote. Brian, this was a great presentation. We really appreciate your time and your insights here today.
Thank you, and appreciate the time.